Hit the button. Oh, there's so many buttons now.
Yeah, hit the other button.
In the works with Brandon and Usa.
Thank you, Raviv, as
Hello.
always.
Hello, Raviv.
Okay.
Nice to talk to you again this week.
He's not
How's
here.
your day going?
You know, if he comes back on, he should do that, like just in the beginning, just so it's like he's actually saying it and he's here.
you want a live version again?
Yeah. So it's not like a recording, because I don't know, that'd be weird.
do you
You
think
just
he
hear
would-
yourself, and then we're like, "Thank you, Raviv," and we have Raviv here today.
I mean,
No.
Raviv he's right here.
Well, right
How's it
there,
going, Raviv?
metaphorically.
How's your Saturday going?
Is it? It's not Saturday. Oh, but okay. Never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. Open. Yeah. Okay. We're just gonna store this in time, and then
Yeah.
he'll open it.
No,
up
we've
later date.
been really on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like.
pretty
I like
consistent.
the
Huh?
open. Yeah, consistent. Why would you say that word?
I don't know. It just popped into my head.
Consistency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
consistency.
You mean like of a liquid, or like of a table?
I feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
in a general
Specifically?
sense, that too.
Okay. All right. Anyway, you had a topic that you wanted to talk about. You were like, "Let's do this," and I was like, "All right."
Yeah, my topic that I got from your text.
Oh, really?
If you went back on it, it was your second thing that you listed.
Okay, I don't remember. Sorry. My head's everywhere else, you know?
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay. So, what is it? What did you want to talk about today? What did you
So
want to put through some thought?
I had some notes, but first of all, I would like to have the definition from Merriam-Webster.
Wait,
because
definition of what?
of consistency.
So
sorry.
what's our topic?
It's the importance of consistency.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, definition.
Any hoozles. Consistency is a noun, which no one cares about. Actually, a lot of people care about. It is a agreement or harmony of parts or features to one another or a whole.
What?
Do you agree with that?
Let me put on my glasses here.
Yeah, here. Let me
Wait.
just turn it to
An
you.
agreement or harmony of parts or features to one or another. An agreement, yeah.
I guess
Consistency.
that is a consistency.
Harmony of conduct, and wow, it's all harmony.
So what this is telling us is
Firmness or character?
they're giving us examples
Density, viscosity.
of feng shui.
Seriously? Oh, harmony.
You know, style, room,
Consistency.
decoration.
Do we have another, source of
Yeah,
definition?
let's
Maybe I should, because I'm
let's
thinking
go
of
dictionary.com.
consistency. I'm thinking of it in a different way. Let's see.
a degree of density, firmness,
Okay, yeah, that's
Viscosity.
like properties.
steadfast adherence to the same principles, course, form, etc.
Agreement or harmony or compatibility.
Maybe we just have the whole thing wrong.
Can I have it in a sentence, please?
You want in a sentence? I got you.
Yeah. Because,
it's
I should have started with
the
the
furnishings and decorations in all the rooms reflect a consistency of style.
I don't like that.
Uh,
A harmony.
followed her own advice with consistency.
Okay, with harmony?
Yes.
See, that's what I don't
Practice
get. Like,
with
okay,
profession.
when I think of consistency, I think of like repeatability.
I think. What if we search up consistent instead?
Consistent.
Consistent. Because that just fell through.
I should have looked.
There
at
goes
that.
our whole podcast.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't say it falls through. It's just different than what I was thinking.
Consistent, objective. Marked by harmony. Here you go. Regularity
Regularity.
or steady continuity.
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 Sorry, I use that word a lot in math. So
Free from variation or contradiction. There you go. English is my third language.
Yeah, that's I
Yeah.
don't know.
So there you go. There's a better one.
Okay, that's a little more like what I was thinking. Anyway, so that's the definition. Where besides seeing it, I guess, on that list topic thing or topic of lists or list of topics, I was like, oh, maybe we could do these. Like,
So-
what made that stand out to you? Why this?
Well, it was just kind of there in our messages,
Yeah,
and I was just like, let's just do that one.
yeah. Okay, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what?
So I didn't really do a lot of like research
You don't have
or
to.
thinking back, but I did find, I guess, more things about consistency that people normally wouldn't think about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really have. So we just looked up the definition of consistency. It's usually recognized as a positive trait, right? Like you're consistent in this, you kind of like build a habit, you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, consistency can be still have that negative part aspect.
Oh
to it.
yeah, most definitely.
So, it's really just complex in general. So you can have your positive side and your negative side. And so an example of the negative side is just substance abuse. But yeah, you can be consistent in that. You can be
Yeah.
consistent in
I mean-
substance abuse.
A very consistent
So-
individual.
There are just your
But
highs and lows.
I guess with that new definition, harmony, like, would that be harmony?
Would that be harmony? I don't know. Are you smoking a lot?
Is that harmony? I don't know what. Okay, I don't. Harmony. I didn't expect that
I mean,
word on any. Harmony.
That's so funny. That's really funny.
But yeah, no. Wow. Yeah, no. Funny phrase. Anyway, transition word. Sorry, I'm just like listening to what I'm saying here. It's stupid. The importance. All right, so a friend of mine, I was talking to him. I like to ask my friends, like when I see him, I'll just be like, "Hey, what do you think?" Just briefly. Not many people were really into it this time around, but they just kind of gave their brief, whatever. And one of my friends, Drew, he was like, "Oh, it's a multiplier," And I was like, "That's a really good way to look at it because it could be positive or negative, but it's a multiplier. So whatever you're gonna do, it's gonna kind of beef it up a little bit." And I think that comes from the fact that like when you are consistent in something, you're really just growing in it typically, or maybe not. Maybe your consistency is it's very constant. Like as in the mathematical sense, like it's going to be the same. Because I think of it as you can be consistently changing. So is your rate of change, is that changing? Or maybe you just have like a more linear change, like it changes, or constant where it doesn't change. It's always staying the same. So I guess consistency kind of looks different depending on what you're doing and where you're at. But when I think of consistency, I think of, oh, you're growing. So, or you're going to be growing. If you're doing something very consistently, you'll be growing, unless it's like an action, like repeatability in this sense. Like if you're striking a nail with a hammer and you're consistent with your strikes, you may not be growing in your ability to do that one motion. You may just always be the same. You may just, I could always drive this the exact same way every time. So I guess it depends on how you're looking there.
Because when we first approached this topic,
Mhm.
the only thing I could think of was our previous podcast
About like habits and such.
habits.
Yeah.
And, definitely don't want to rehash the same thing.
Habits. Yeah, because here's the thing. I think there's always a lot of overlap with any topic you talk about.
That's true.
And so it's to kind of look into the difference, like what makes it slightly different, or maybe it's zoomed in more. Maybe you're not looking at the broad aspect. Maybe you're just kind of, I don't know, different perspectives on similar things isn't a bad thing.
That's true.
Yeah, it gives you another way of looking at it.
English is just a large, complex language that I don't understand.
Don't. You got to go back to school for that.
Yeah, I never did good in
So-
English.
Consistency, when you think of it now, what is it? Like when you think, oh, consistency, what kind of context does your brain just jump to immediately?
Well, whenever I think consistency is just doing the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why my brain led to the Habits podcast
Yeah.
and routines and stuff.
Like trying to get
because-
a good habit going.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in my head, it's just like, oh, do said thing X amount of times today or a certain amount of time, and then you just do it every day type of thing, or every other day, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
consistency
So
you
just-
want it.
As long as, because when I thought about it, it was pretty much similar to that. It
Mhm.
was, when needed, you're showing up to it. Meaning, like if you have a habit, or you making a habit or something like that, and say you wanted to work out at this time or whatever, it's kind of showing up to when you need it. So it's, I need to work out at this time,
Mm.
so you're going to do that at that time, and every time that time comes around, you're going to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends kind of kept bringing up the word dependability and reliability.
Mm.
So consistency. So knowing, I guess being able to predict in that sense what you're going to be doing. Like it's 9:00, so and so is going to be in the gym. Like we know where he is, or
Mm.
hey, this person's never late. So they're consistent in the fact that they're never late.
Yeah.
Now the times to be at a place may be different, but you're always going to be there, on time. So consistency in that manner. So that was my initial thoughts, more on the dependability, on the predictability of an action or actions.
Okay. Well, that being said, like I said, I looked into some, I guess, ideas or thoughts that people normally wouldn't think.
Mhm.
And one of them was saying that consistency is normally compared with like
Rigidity.
rigidity. I was like, okay, anyway. But it can also kind of be like the opposite, like being flexible, being adaptable. Like
Mhm.
you're consistent with all these things and you're able to just change just to adapt to that situation.
So how would that, trying to think how that would look inside.
So it's being adaptable, but you're still maintaining like your core principles and your core values.
Okay. So it's like you're showing up to something. Okay. So it's let's say in the gym you're not always going to be lifting the same weight or doing the same exercises, but you're showing up.
Yeah, you're
and
showing up and you're still doing
you
it.
have a purpose for being there.
Yeah.
And such. Okay.
So there's still that aspect of being flexible and adaptable to, whatever you feel, however, whatever happens in,
But-
externally.
But you're consistent in your principles. And
Yes.
that. Okay. And that's where that word would fit in there. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what are you saying
So-
here?
Yeah. So consistency, when I read that, I never really thought about that. So after reading that, I realized that you have to have kind of a balance between,
Changing consistency.
yes.
Well,
So I thought that was just kind of interesting.
something to think about is no matter what, things are always changing.
Mhm.
Always. Like even just, just the world around you, the physicality, everything's changing. Everything's always changing. It's, rates of
It's-
change, and you are too. You're never exactly the same physical person as
Yeah.
you were before. The situations are never the exact same. Now they may be very, 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 very similar at times,
Mm.
but never the exact same. So I guess, having some sort of principles or something that is, constant, and you are consistently, kind of comparing things to those and running them through that filter, then it's easier to go about the world of change
Mhm.
and, I don't know, have something that's not some sense of identity, I guess. I guess it would kind of go into identity, consistency, because that would be principles and values, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
And something that's interesting is um like your values also change.
Mm.
And it's interesting to see when people's values change quickly, or a lot of things are kind of in the air at a moment. Like, there are junctions in people's life where maybe they learn a lot of things. And so their principles suddenly change. They're not as rigid as they were. They kind of open up to be, um, you know, pliable and change. And so they're kind of like states where people are kind of vulnerable to different things altering them. Like I'm trying to think, like out of high school, you're just like open to everything starts changing. You start learning a lot of different things, and you may be open to a lot, and you may come across good things and you acquire those, but maybe you pick up a bad habit, like a lot of people pick up drinking or something like that. Just because the environment they're around. And so you're just kind of open to a lot of things. Your values aren't as like rigid. So you're just susceptible to absorbing just everything.
Yeah.
And that could be both good and bad. So
I guess, yeah, you're right. It definitely comes with experience and age.
yeah. So I just think with consistency, if you just want like places of things that are the same, something to hold on to in the ever-changing world, at least to know where your identity is at. Because if things are changing too much and you're not sure how to handle that change, and you're not sure how to run that change through your values, then you're going to be susceptible to absorbing everything bad as well as some good things too. I mean, but just a lot of shit.
Mhm.
And you really can't sort things out.
I
but-
gotcha.
Yeah, things that are high in consistency of just like less change, and not necessarily consistency of your values, but if there's not a lot of things changing, it's kind of easier to exist in that space because it's very predictable, everything's repeatable, you know how to handle every situation. Maybe this is at your work, say like my work is online shopping right now, and so I shop for other people. Some days, those days are just like I know exactly how it's going to go. I know exactly how to do it. And the practice of it, like shopping the items, I've shopped it so many times. I know exactly where it is. I know what I'm going to do if it's out, so it's very,
You're just super efficient.
yeah, nothing's changing here. I can go on autopilot, which is probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah,
But
probably
that's
not.
like a lot of consistency.
Mhm.
I don't need to have a crazy amount of personal values to function well in that space, because that space is very kind of rigid in a sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like maybe if I go, out into the wilderness where I've never been before,
Mhm.
or into a maybe a city or a business that's very fast paced, moving, everything's changing. I've never done that job before. There are so many people around, and all of them have competing values. And at that point, now I have to have values to kind of parallel to, what's going on, to kind of go like, okay, run it through a filter. Like, is this following my values, or how can I do this while following my values? And so that's like not a lot of consistency. So you have to have more internal consistency. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's, some things are changing a lot more. So you have to provide the structure in yourself. Other things are more structured. So you don't necessarily need the same structure in yourself.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a very roundabout way to get to that. But
I mean, I did enjoy, the examples and
yeah.
stuff. Examples really help.
Just kind of seeing like where it would be in practice and such.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I hadn't exactly thought of that perfectly, like in that manner, like in those words before, that it has to come from you. When lots of things are changing, the consistency comes from you.
Yeah, it's definitely the wording that got to me. I was like, wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's interesting.
Like, huh, okay. Which makes a lot of sense. That's why we have principles and values going through life.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess where it gets difficult is when those change, and you gotta, then what, and it kind of reminds me of, a lot of teachings, and when people are like, oh, you have to kind of roll with life, And is that the same thing when all your values turn out to be like bullshit and you're not sure what to believe? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been living my life.
I've been
wrong
living
for
a
the
lot.
last 30 years.
Yeah, when you go, oh shit, like you learn something, you go, oh man,
It's just
this whole
completely
time,
life changing.
and then you're not sure where to go from there.
Yeah.
Like you got enough information to prove yourself wrong in every aspect,
That's
but not
awful.
more information to kind of like settle on something. So you're kind of like in a limbo, and that's that. Now you're susceptible to more bad shit to come in because you haven't quite reached the next level of awareness to
Yeah.
know that maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that, or you know, just because this is wrong doesn't mean I need to go and do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's hadn't quite thought of that in that way before.
Same.
Same.
What else you got?
Oh, I didn't know you were looking on there. But as far as, so I thought it was interesting that consistency is not just, you know, the way we're talking about it. It seems to be dependability,
Yeah.
Repeatability and predictability. And that's not always a good thing. You said it could be a negative thing, but
Yes.
you were saying it negative as in still being consistent. So you
Yes.
can be consistent in the wrong direction.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes being consistent is not a good thing.
Mhm.
Like maybe you're a fighter, and if you always do the same pattern over and over and over, that's not going to be a good thing. Like you're going to get your ass
You
beat.
could probably trick them one of these
Or
times.
like you're playing ping pong because we were playing ping pong, you know, and you could do the same as long as it's working, you know, you could do the same thing. That consistency of like, man, he always hits that, you know, particular hit very well.
Mm.
So do that again, you know. But after a while, you keep doing that, somebody goes, I knew exactly how to fight that. And
Yeah.
so your consistency in the way, you know, your patterns is not going to be, in that case, it's more predictability. Like you're going to be able to be found out. Your pattern is known. You're going to be destroyed. Yeah. So you always, every time one uses the word consistency, I think you just kind of go up the level when you're like, oh, that's predictable. Okay. So now we're going to move consistency to, oh, you're very consistent and scoring points.
Mm.
There we go.
Funny because when it comes to like ping pong, like you said, if you just do one shot over and over again and the other person, you know, finds out what you're doing, easily predictable, both of you are adapting to each other to be more consistent at one thing until the other person finds out.
Well, what's kind of interesting is when you say, or playing ping pong, we'll just keep going with that, with the same person for a while, everything's very similar. You know, there's not much, you know, the guy's game, you're going to react a certain way and he knows you're going to react that way. So, I mean, the games are very consistent. Typically, they're not too crazy in, until you face someone else that's different and you go, oh shit, like
This is completely different.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And hey, your consistency in that manner, hey, I always hit it this way. Maybe it's good because, you know, the other guy's like, oh shit. Like maybe you're not the one saying, oh shit. The other guy's like, God damn, like I cannot hit that one serve he hits every single time. So consistency isn't always a good thing in, I guess, your context. You could call it a reference frame for a sense, like consistency of scoring a point. That's good. That's what you want for your game. Consistency of hitting one thing, that may be good. Or consistency in like, that's all your game is just that one hit. Like, hey, at least he's consistent, but we know how to fight this. So it's not that good. So most of the time when you hear consistency though, it's a good thing. Like, and then I also find it interesting in the definitions. Well, it's the other consistency, like the texture, the feeling.
Oh yeah.
The consistency of something, what it consists of. Like how can you think about that?
That's not consistent. This corner.
Yeah.
I peeled off the tape.
Oh yeah. So it's like
you peeled up the finish.
So it's something more consistent in that sense, be like smoother.
Yeah.
Or not smoother, but it's
just the way something
the
feels.
pattern is the same, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not consistent, then it might be flipping through all sorts of different textures. But it can be consistent if those textures are repeated in a pattern, right? So I guess that could go to show again how consistency, how we were like, oh, that's kind of a weird definition, or that's not the same. How it would flip over to from solid objects to people is your pattern. It's like, oh, that's a very consistent texture. Or hey, it flips through all these different textures, but that pattern repeats. Like it has a theme, right? It has some sort of guiding rules to it. So that's a consistent pattern. So something like that. Yeah. I don't know too much about that. I'm curious about the harmony. Why the harmony?
I really don't know because the definition went from harmony.
Harmony.
God,
Harmony.
Oh gosh, harmony with furniture and decoration.
And that you said feng shui.
Yeah, in my head, I'm just.
So
that's
do you
feng
know?
shui.
Do you know about feng shui?
It's just the flow of the room.
The flow of the room,
Yeah.
the energy, bro. The
Yeah,
energy.
energy.
What do you know about it?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Nothing. Did you try to set your room up? Did you watch videos of feng shui before, like rearranging your room ever? No. I wanted to get into it, but all the videos were like kind of spiritual-ish. You know what I mean? None of them were like, okay, like I get the flow of the energy and stuff, but it was
actually-
like it got like really into it. I'm like, I
Now
really
that-
just want to.
Now that I think about it, I did. It was when I was still using TikTok. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
like near the earlier days of TikTok. There's this guy who just
Oh.
mapped out a floor plan
Yes.
and then just used little blocks. And it was just like, yeah, so there's a window here. You don't want to put,
yeah,
you
your
know,
thing
you don't
here,
want to
here.
block it here. So what you can do is this,
And you
that.
could
I was
create a
like, wow.
separation right here, and when you walk in, it'll feel like, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I would.
I watched that one.
That would be so nice. I would watch those all the time.
Those were
And
nice.
It'd be nice, you know, if, you know, I had my own place or something, but I have, you know, one small room.
Yeah.
That has a closet over here, a window over there. A door. Pretty much 3 walls are taken up by something.
Mm.
And the dimensions don't really fit my bed too well with my, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah,
like
your
there's
room
not
is
much.
kind of narrow.
Yeah, there's not much I could do with my room, and at least, you know, having a desk, a bed, and then like kind of like a mini kitchen.
That's definitely hard.
Yeah. But so why is consistency important then? I guess let's get to the main thing though. Why is consistency important?
Because every little bit you do adds up.
What does that mean?
Like 1 + 1 = 2, you know, it just adds up.
Okay, what does that mean?
You brush your teeth twice a day, every day for years. You don't get cavities. You don't lose teeth.
Okay, but what's that mean? Why is it important?
Because
And I guess consistency in the positive sense, it sounds like
okay,
we're saying.
yeah. So
Okay.
in the positive sense, consistency is good,
Or important.
is important.
What is the importance of it?
Because you can just really build a healthier life, or a healthy life,
Why?
whatever that looks like for that person.
Like how? How does it
How?
relate to consistency, healthy life? Where's the bridge?
So that goes into our previous podcast.
Okay, you don't have to say like the same things, but come on, bridge this gap here.
Man, that's really hard to do. It's
What about consistency? And like we had multiple definitions for it. Say it's a multiplier, it's repeatability, it's dependability.
I guess it's more of, it's also self-reflection, just
Mhm.
pretty much how you feel, just checking in with yourself.
Like
Which
little way
goes-
stations.
So which goes into that positive negative aspect. So in that positive aspect, you just kind of look into yourself, just say, why would I do this? Will it benefit me? That type of stuff. So it's really hard to bridge the gap because most of it is just self-reflection and how you feel about something and what you're doing. At least
mean,
for me.
Okay. I guess in a sense, I see what you're saying there. I'm like, yeah, I guess in a more specific sense.
More specific sense? No clue.
Well, no, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Because generally there are like, it's not so subjective. There are objective consistencies. Like, hey, you know, you're constantly hitting this mark at work, you know, and you do it every time. Like, this person's going to do it. He's very consistent. Things like that. So
I've been very consistent with my homework.
that's good. That's really good.
I've done all my assignments so far.
Okay, so I guess consistency in homework, or I guess in school, how would that benefit in an objective way? What's the importance of consistency in that? And I'd say it's kind of, you know, it's showing up to what you need to do every time. You know, it's performing, and it could be for small things like opening a door.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you open it the same way. But in a positive sense, it's showing up to something. So say homework. You show up to your homework, you do your homework. And then the next time, you know, oh, I have homework. You show up to your homework, you do your homework.
Yeah.
And so why would that be positive? Why would that be a benefit? Because you get your homework done.
Yeah.
You'll be things you need to do, things you want to do, you will do them.
Yeah, you get more out of it.
Yeah.
You get more
out of it.
knowledge, you
Yeah.
get better grades,
Mhm.
that's my whole thing with the 1 + 1 = 2.
It's true.
2 + 2 = 4.
I know,
You
I
get
was
more
just-
out of it.
I was just curious on what you exactly
Or we
meant.
could use the multiplier thing.
Is it? Yeah.
1 × 2 = 2.
Well, think of it like this. If it's one action and you
Uh-huh.
multiply it by like 6, it's gonna be 6.
Yeah.
So it's 1 + 1
Oh,
plus 1
could
plus
you
1 plus.
In a way, you could
So
think of
it's-
it as like a game aspect if you're like putting points into your stats.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like, oh, I've been consistently doing this.
I almost think of it as upkeep though,
Mhm.
because the next time isn't guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
So when you're assigned homework, it's not guaranteed you'll do it. So you
That's
have
true.
to show up for it every time. And the consistency is showing up for it.
Mhm.
It's the performing. Or you could zoom in and say getting a
So-
high amount of points on
So
your homework.
Would it be more of like consistency and practice?
In practice or and practice?
And practice.
And
So
practice.
it's like what you just said.
I
just
would say
showing up.
consistency is made by practice and it is practice.
Okay.
Like it depends on your context of what you're saying. Because
Gotcha.
if say this person's really consistent with their hits, that's probably from practice.
Mhm.
But I mean, going to practice, if you're always doing that, you're consistent in going to practice. Like you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just depends on where you're putting the word there.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's very similar. But I'd say it's showing up to stuff because the next time isn't guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to make that next hit. But you showed up before to practice each time consistently,
Mhm.
and you built that skill for your brain to consistently be able to do that motion. So it's just showing up to something. And then, I mean, over time, that 1 + 1, it builds up.
It becomes muscle memory.
But if you don't do something, then it goes down. Maybe that skill goes down. That's what I mean. Like it's an upkeep type thing.
Mhm.
If like eating well, you can eat well once, but if you don't eat well ever again, it's going to have bad effects on your body, right? But if you eat well and then next time you eat well again. And you
Yeah,
eat
there's
well
a
again.
chance that you'll feel better.
Yeah. And then the next time, oh, I ate bad. Maybe I'll locally feel bad, but it's not going to do crazy damage. But if I keep doing it bad, so
Yeah.
the next time you got to be aware of the next time. Because say you ate well for like 5 days and then
Mhm.
one day you didn't, all hope is not lost.
Yeah.
You just have to do it again to be consistent in eating well.
Mhm.
If you were to start not eating well or go back and forth all the time, you wouldn't be that consistent. So, yeah. And when I was talking with my friends, I was like, I guess it's really just consistency is your life. Like, what is your life consistent? What does it consist of? Your life, it's exactly what you do is what your life is made of.
Yeah.
What you do repeatedly. And that kind of goes to that habits thing. What are your habits? But also, what do you intentionally do? Not just habits. What do you what things do you have to put a lot of brain power towards every single time.
Mhm.
And it's not a habit. It's not something where you can just get into it. It's something you actually have to put effort into. You have to show up to every time.
Yeah.
So I'd say consistency is what what your life is made up of. It's your identity. And I feel like identity is important, especially again with ever changing world, like feeling like you are something and not just a drop in the ocean.
I get you.
Although we are all kind of like a drop in the ocean.
So going into
unique.
that identity thing, another thing I found online is how consistency can form a bias.
Yeah.
So
In what sense? Like
just,
I think I get it, but
just in kind of what we talked about a little earlier, just how their values and stuff, just their beliefs, beliefs and actions, and it's just because it's their core value, there's going to be resistance to change.
yeah.
So I found that online, and I thought that was also kind of interesting because I never thought about that aspect either. The resistant to change, getting new information to, challenge those beliefs. And, it really just does limit the mind's ability to learn and grow. So have you ever heard of people or some people who just act very immature or just have a huge ego?
I mean, I feel like that's everyone at some point, but yes.
But yeah, it just kind of reminded me of that. And
Just kind of stuck in the
they're just stuck in their own ways.
Or
they're not open to anything.
older people who are just like, I think what I think and that's it now.
Yeah.
Like there's no,
They just,
which can be, so there is a good thing to that as well, is you're resistant to, like I was saying before, getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, I'm not going to, this new thing, I'm good with my old thing. And it turns out that new thing was absolutely terrible. Nobody knew. But you sticking with your own, the old ways or whatever, you completely bypass that stress.
Yeah.
You didn't get, lost in the sauce or anything. So it can be good in that sense. And having values that's one of the, like being more mature and having values is you do have some sort of measure. And that's something, a measure of adulthood, right? Is being able to go, I'm fine. I'm good. The old ways are better, but also, still being pliable enough to go, oh, this new way is better and change to that. So,
yeah. So in that sense, I guess just values, consistency, being good, bad. I don't know.
I think of it as a function. Like
A function?
You put, something happens, you put that into an equation, just have an equation, put that in for X, and then you get your output Y, and you have different rates of change and such for different equations. And, as long as the function, like if you just have one function, even if all the values are changing a lot, like there's different rates of change, like that function is still that function. It's still, going to have that consistency that you put these values in at this number.
Yeah.
It will get this output out this number. So you could put in a bunch of different values and you'll get a bunch of different numbers, but what those numbers are going to be. They're consistent with the function. It's that line on the graph.
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it. And I this whole time I'm thinking of like derivatives and stuff. It's like you could have rates of change or things that are always changing in the same way. And that's, acceleration, your speed is always changing, but in the same way. So that's what I think of consistency.
And I guess that's why a lot of researchers go ahead and do the consistency rate, just like n equals 0.9 or something like that. So I've come across that a lot during my research.
People like repeatability, especially when it comes to money stuff.
So it just kind of all clicks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have much more or pretty much anything else.
Yeah, I'm done.
I think that's fine. Anyway, yeah, I think we're just gonna skedaddle. You guys have a great time. Be
Yes.
consistent
Be
in a
cons-
positive way.
Can we just go ahead and add that real quick because I don't have the sound.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you for watching In the Works by Brandon Nusa. Subscribe and like for more.
Bye.
Bye.